We are finding week by week how fungi will help alter it in a positive direction. Dr. Robert Love, he highlighted a study that came out of the Big Five schools, universities, showcasing the power of lion's mane to go to sleep, to stay asleep, and to go back to sleep once you wake up throughout the night. So how can mushrooms be mimicking chicken? The United States will produce equal amounts of lion's mane mushrooms as there is population.
Well, welcome to Behind the Skew. This show exists because most people see the product, right? They see the mushroom on the shelf, the truffle in the jar, the plant-based snack, but they don't typically ever get to see or learn about the belief system behind it. And this is a generational story, right? The philosophy, the conviction that the ingredients aren't just food. They're medicine, their culture. It's the future, right? And this isn't a pitch, just a real unfiltered conversation. And today I'm sitting down with Dennis. Dennis is a second generation mushroom farmer and founder of the Mush Hub company, and someone who truly believes that fungi might just be the solution to a lot of the problems that we're facing today. So, Dennis, I kind of want to start off. You don't just sell mushrooms. I mean, you truly believe in them and all the different qualities that come along with them. Where did that conviction really start for you and begin?
You got to understand every angle. By the way, thank you for having me on your show. But you got
Of
to have,
course.
and then to add, not might, but will or are is the correct terminology when it comes to what fungi will do for our planet, for us, and for communities and bringing communities together. So never anticipated I would be in mushrooms. This kind of came into mushrooms to out of family reasons to help to help and be assist my father in a project. And it just happened that the more I dove in, the more I realized how disconnected we are, or how connected we are, and yet is this invisible, and it's almost like a veil has been pulled on purpose. Because everything that I hear that we're battling today, we're finding week by week how fungi will help alter it in a positive direction. And so you've got, with every book, with every website and video that I would listen to, what some really cool people are doing, some really cool things around the world, is just it all makes sense. We fit together, and so I see a very beautiful future thanks to fungi.
Yeah, and I for sure over the last, man, 10, 15 years, I feel like fungi has definitely kind of come to the forefront of a lot of studies and different things. Like lion's mane is like a huge thing that people are putting in drinks, they're putting in pill forms, or even going like even further into maybe the psychedelic side of like microdosing and everything involved there, and PTSD treatments and things like that. And then really just the nutritional facts, or the nutritional side of what comes with the mushrooms too, and how they help internally in terms of chemical balances and things like that. And this obviously isn't a trend for you, like you said, being kind of second generation here. And what's something that, obviously you grew up around mushrooms, and fungi. What did that teach you that most people maybe misunderstand or just don't get about them?
In the early days, it was just I like eating mushrooms. And it's like having the ability to walk the farm and eat mushrooms right off the bed. Years later, 20 plus years later, I'm finding that you should never eat raw mushrooms. You must cook them in order to break down the cell wall to get all the bioavailable nutrients. Then additional, negative impacts of eating raw mushrooms, and then it having the potential to cause certain harms to the body, especially on the woman's side. And so when I see, fresh mushrooms in the salad bars in grocery stores, that's like a big vibrating moment where you're like, I've talked to pretty much every produce manager and in relation to that. But it was not till I was in my late 20s on my dad's farm, and the books, and you just that's where it really lured me in. That's where it really pulled me. So before, they were just delicious and I love to eat them. And then you start valuing in how connected we are through the various things that fungi teach us. And all we have to do is observe and support, and they show us the way. And so we're now seeing this, some call it shroom boom. I think it is the decade of mushrooms. I think it is the era of fungi that we're entered. It's been a rocky ride. A lot of people came in for the wrong reasons and are selling fillers, which is a big conversation amongst a lot of the companies. So you're paying, 50, 60, $70, and you're just being filled with fillers. And of course, any mushroom in you is good mushroom, right? But the fact is, if you're going to spend that amount of money, it should come with a return on investment, on the basis of what it actually brings you, right? But then there's that hidden side from our healthcare system, which mushrooms are utilized to save people in surgeries. There's a fungi called Tolipocladium inflatum, and it has compounds that when you get an organ transplant, it is utilized to not reject that organ, right? So when people tell me, "Oh, I hate mushrooms," or "Mushrooms are disgusting," and this, I was like, "Oh, okay, but do you have anybody in your family that had an organ transplant?" And they're like, "Oh yeah, my aunt or my dad or my." And I was like, "Well, just so you know, they're here today because of a mushroom, right? So you don't have to like it, but you don't have to disrespect it.
Wow.
Respect it because it provides us, that it has provided, and the future is gorgeous because of it. Because now we got all these cool people having these incredible visions that they're bringing to life, and so it's just from packaging to clothing to food, and then different conveniences of food, whether it's ready to eat, what is my focus, and then the tinctures, the pills, the powders, you name it, right? So the list goes on, as you mentioned.
Yeah, I had no idea that they were used in medical practice for transplants and helping the body be able to uh, take on that transplant of that organ. And then
It's
I also
incredible.
another thing you mentioned, yeah, it's incredible the being able to use that in or it being used in modern medicine for something as extreme as an organ transplant. And then the other thing you mentioned was eating them raw. I did not know that. So that's a good thing to know. Me and my wife, we have salads all the time and we just dice up just regular I don't even know what
Cremins,
variety of
whites,
mushrooms they are, but yeah, exactly, yeah, and
yeah.
just throw them right on our salad, so don't
If
do that.
do you have
Cook
yeah, do,
'em.
do you have an air fryer?
Yeah,
Do you have an air
absolutely.
fryer? Yeah. 375, 5 minutes, a little bit of olive oil, salt, pepper, shake it, and right on top of a salad. You're not just gonna get a really good, you're not
Okay,
just gonna get the bioavailable nutrients, but you're gonna get a really cool, delicious taste profile on top of that salad.
okay, wow, that's great to know, yeah, I'm gonna I'm gonna make note of that and let my wife know too, but, bringing this into food and beverage, you mentioned that you know, believing that mushrooms should be a part of possibly every meal, consuming it every single day, and that's definitely not how a lot of people think. I think you touched on it, a lot of people don't necessarily like mushrooms. But there's so many different varieties of what's out there and how you can use them, but if someone says, like, "Why mushrooms?" What's your first response to that?
My first response is, are you taking any supplements? Are you deficient in something? Are you tired? Do you have brain fog? A lot of folks walk through my door already knowing what their aim is, right? It's a small portion that come in and says, I love mushrooms, so I don't know which part here I just want to add mushrooms. And then you have the group which is, so there's different categories of where everybody is, and that's just based on their openness to a potential that a food could actually heal them in something. So eating buying fresh mushrooms, dicing them up and cooking them is your best return on investment. And everything else depends on your lifestyle, depends on how convenient you need it to be. The only thing that matters is consistency. If you're gonna intake mushrooms into your life, you want to make sure that you've made a decision, and that you're going to utilize it on an ongoing basis. When I decided to, I eat 10 to 15 pounds of mushrooms a week, depending on the week. But sometimes I can't cook. I just had a shiitake sushi roll, and the goju, the shiitake goju's, right? Whenever I go out, what mushroom is on the menu, and then do you have a side of mushrooms? And so it's just, for me, it's natural now to continuously follow that. But I noticed I didn't eat enough lion's mane, and I followed a neuroscientist by the name of Dr. Robert Love, and he praises lion's mane, really talks about lion's mane a lot, its benefits. He's a doctor that focuses on preventive Alzheimer's, and works with Alzheimer patients. And so this is now in October of 24. He highlighted a study that came out of the big five schools, universities, showcasing the power of lion's mane to go to sleep, to stay asleep, and to go back to sleep once you wake up throughout the night. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to try this. I've got incredible tinctures by that Jason cooks up in his lab at Feral Fungi. Definitely a tincture I would suggest to everybody. So I grabbed his, and every single day, 5 days on, 2 days off, at the exact same time at night, I consume a lion's mane tincture. And I have been doing this now for, well, since October October 24, and I have incredible sleep. Even though I have yesterday I slept only 3 hours because of work and different things that I'm doing at the moment. It's kind of I'm I'm in a pre-project phase. So I'm spending a lot of time on the road. So it's just choose it and be consistent in it, and that's where you get your biggest return on an investment.
Yeah, yeah, we'll have to connect on what it is you're taking, and and I'll give myself some of that to start helping with my sleep. I stay up sometimes, and not only because I'm doing a lot of work, but just staring at my ceiling, just thinking about things, thinking about what I have to do the next day. I have, almost 2-year-old twins too, so life is a little hectic at times, and, building my own business too, so, but truly, it really sounds like you know, you almost your refrigerator is like a medicine cabinet, honestly, and I think that's something that you even mentioned when we talked a couple weeks ago. That's a pretty powerful statement, that's a powerful thing, and all the things that you're mentioning so far about how the mushrooms are connected, like, to the body and how they work so well with it to help with sleep or help with cognitive abilities. Funny side story, my mom, she probably is gonna hate that I'm gonna say this, but going through some premenopausal things and just because of the age that she's in, not that she's old, but just getting to that age, and so she had, like, these weird spells sometimes where she just, like, forgets things, and not that she has she's been tested, no Alzheimer's or dementia, anything like that, but just like these aloof moments where like she just forgets her mind and like, and kind of just blamed it on that. And that was one of the things that her doctor talked to her about was you should talk one, continue to do, things like Sudokus and things like that, challenge your mind, not just watch TV every day that you're not working. But also like start taking supplements. And one of those was lion's mane to help with the focus, help with the cognitive ability, and it's an amazing thing. And I think now in our modern food systems and even pharmaceuticals are just extremely disconnected and from the mindset of we can look within our refrigerator per se to be our medicine cabinet, to be the place that actually gives us what we need to be healthy, cognitive people.
Oh, for sure. I love seeing in the grocery stores that people are more and more people are reading ingredients, and especially when new items come in stores. And I see that at Whole Foods a lot. And Whole Foods and changed. Whole Foods is night and day than how it was before Amazon. So now there's suddenly there's like labels at the bottom of the tables, and certain things are disclosed, and so you really have to be detailed in regards to what do you allow into your home. So and and what's worse, people are so busy that like when I also follow Dr. Berg. He's a great online doctor. Talks also a lot about fasting and other health regimens. He's got a great channel, and he was talking about how this like maltodextrin is put into foods and what it does, hormone disruptor, etc. I was like, you know what? I'm going to Whole Foods. I'm gonna take a look. I wasn't reading labels. I was trusting Whole Foods to read the labels, right? Because I'm paying them substantially more money than any other store. And so I'm expecting a little bit of due diligence, that there's a care component to it, right? It's not a mom and pop shop anymore. I mean, sadly, we don't have those as many as we need, but we've lost that. That used to be you walk through the door and you trust. You can't do that anymore, right? And now you have to be diligent. Now you have to, there's the apps, right? I think one is called, what's the one called? I downloaded it, I used it once or twice because I just like now I make it a habit to read every single label. And I've started reading labels that I've already read because I have found that sometimes things are tweaked. So the best way to do is, I mean, I talk about it on LinkedIn all the time, is there's a local farmer map in your area. Select 10 top foods that you consume and make it a weekly trip. Bring your kids and have them meet the farmer and see the operation and understand that there's work between that food and coming to the plate and all that's done to get there, and the sacrifice and the rest of it. It's all important. We're all connected, right? And so and those farmers want to share their stories, so we need to do that. We need to reconnect, and so and make as many things at home as possible. such as taking mushrooms and, oven frying, deep frying, air frying, pan frying, you name it. Anything you want to do with a mushroom, she'll eventually end up good.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, and I know the app you're talking about too. You can scan the barcode or the ingredients list, and
Yucca,
it'll kind of
that's the
break
one I
down
I
exactly
downloaded
what.
Yucca. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
I know my wife has one of those. I was actually, I just had a conversation recently about this with somebody, and I had asked them what one of the most, surprising things was when they actually went to market with their product, and they said it's so interesting. They singled out Gen Zers, saying how Gen Zers, but people in general, how many more people actually are starting to come in at their taste testings and things like that. And the first thing they do is they turn the can around and they look at the label and they see what ingredients are in it. And I think that's on purpose. Like you were saying, it's one of those things to check to see, okay, what's in this? Are the dyes, the seed oils. I think that's like two of the top things that people are looking for now in items. And, that's something that me and my wife do. We look at the label, and if it has a bunch of things in it or a bunch of words, we have no clue what they are. I'm not buying it, Like, I don't
Yeah.
know what that is. I don't know what I'm drinking or what I'm consuming. I'm not gonna buy it, and because who knows what that truly is, and but those apps are great too, and yeah, and I think especially over the last, like, decade or two, plant-based has for sure exploded a lot more, and also, on the flip side of that, has faced quite a big backlash. We saw Beyond Meat was pretty good and popular, and they were performing well in the Nasdaq, and then, it dropped pretty significantly. Where do you think mushrooms kinda sit in the movement of plant-based? Or do you think they could be a meat replacement or a superfood or just completely in a category of their own?
All the above.
Yeah.
I think that I don't think there's a competition. I've never understood the whole concept. Oh, I want to make it taste like steak, or I want to make it taste like chicken, or like, why do we have to do that? Why can't we just have something that tastes better, or that is healthier, right, with everybody, etc. I'm not going to claim here that one is healthier over another. I believe mushrooms are the healthiest. Period. And then if we're going to really get into the depths of this, who's faking who, well, first came mushrooms, then came everything else. So how can mushrooms be mimicking chicken, right, when in the wild you can go and forage chicken of the woods mushroom, and you're not going to know that you're not eating chicken, and so again,
Mm,
here comes the
yeah.
chicken afterwards, right? And so, like, this whole conversation that vegans are pushing, make it taste like pulled pork and this and that. That's great. Like, but it doesn't have to. We don't have to be telling somebody don't eat this. Offer them something better in return. You can't leave a person hanging, right? Like, you're hungry, so put something in front of them that's good, that's valuable, and it doesn't. You don't have to tell it, hey, it tastes like just that chicken that you ate. No, let them tell you, holy crap, this tastes like my mom's chicken. And I've had that happen dozens of times, right? Where it's compared to a specific dish that somebody somewhere made, and that has nothing to do with mushrooms, 99% meat oriented. It just happens to, like, whoa, I'm getting the same profile from, and they're like, "There's mushrooms in this? Like, this is mushrooms." These are the kind of conversations I'm having on an ongoing basis for the last, 15, 20 years. The amount of people that I've met that have this relationship, which is, so how can you not be excited when everybody else is excited, right? And so when you're creating something cool, it's a waltz, right? You're dancing with it, right? And so it's really cool. Like, for example, this beautiful art behind me. This is fungal art series by Studio Cartier from Amsterdam, and this is live art, fungal art, right? So he's doing some crazy work. He just moved out to Dubai, and he actually posts a lot on Instagram. So people should follow him on Studio Cartier's Instagram page. And then, of course, the delicious Dram mushroom cola. This is my favorite drink, loaded with mushrooms, 0 calories and 0 sugars. And so it's like, there's some really cool products coming out, and it's like very easy to consume mushrooms today, right?
Yeah, Dram's great. I've had that a couple of times. It's delicious. But
Mm.
yeah, the versatility of the mushrooms is amazing, and I didn't even know that your artwork in the back there is a fungi. How cool.
Yeah, it
How
was pretty. It
unique and
was
how fun.
Yeah, it's definitely close to my heart, and I feature it in a lot of my online postings of mushrooms. That's usually my background because how freaking cool it is. So the more pictures that I have, the more down, like 10, 20 years down the line, I can tell the AI thing to go into my photos and find each one and then compare how it maybe shapes and moves throughout the decades. So it'll be fun.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, like a
Yeah,
time
yeah.
lapse of almost like the decade of
Yeah,
how, like,
yeah, yeah. Because we do keep the
the art
door
piece
open,
actually grew.
yeah, we do keep the door open, at the stores, and so sometimes we have these, gusts of wind, and so the temperature always sometimes fluctuates, which potentially could. I'm not saying it will, but could. I believe it will, and I believe that's part of the coolness.
Yeah. Yeah, and back to what you were saying about the dish of, um not coming out and saying like, "Hey, this is just like meat or like ground beef or a pulled pork sandwich or something," and letting it be the same. And mentioning your social media, I've seen been following you for a while and what you've been doing and seeing the type of things that you've cooked up. And it is amazing, like, there's things that you've shared that I look at and I'm like, "Oh, wow, that looks like a piece of fried fish or something like that." And it looks almost exactly the same. And, it does make you wanna, like, I wanna taste it, you know, I'm like, "Man, I wish I was there to, like, try that and see what that flavor profile looks like," because a long time ago, one of my first jobs was working at Captain D's, and there's one post I can think of right now that you had, and as soon as I saw it, I was like, "Oh, that looks like, the wet battered fried fish that Captain D's is known for. That looks delicious." Like, I wouldn't know a difference, you know, if you put that
Uh,
next to a Captain D's fried fish. I probably wouldn't be able to discern the difference until we actually broke it open and looked at it.
Yeah, no, it's pretty cool how you can be very simple with mushrooms, and you can really go complex. You know what Chef Sarno did with the lion's mane steak. And many have since tried to perfect it as well. There's a chef. There's a chef in Las Vegas. I forget the name of the. It's on the top floor of one of the Wynn Casino, the top floor, there's a restaurant up there, and I guess the chef is either a James Beard chef or like a Michelin something. He's up there somewhere, known, and he makes a lion's mane steak that mushroom farmers have visited, tried, and swear by it. So it's really cool to see that now it's becoming more visible in these hotspots, which are attract a good tourism base. So it's pretty cool. So I'm excited. I'm personally just I like lion's mane just pulled apart and air fried or deep fried, just tossed in olive oil, salt, pepper, and that's my favorite way. And I mean, I can eat that as is with dip, or put it on a taco, on a sandwich, you name it. Like the list goes on. That because it's like I come home, I've just done a 14-hour day. What can I do in 15 minutes? That's awesome. And sometimes so late at night there's like you don't want to eat too much, right, but you just want to have something, so it's like, so yeah, so I'm very thankful to mushrooms.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and kinda touching too on what you're doing specifically, excuse me, but you're not just growing. I mean, I know you're cultivating, you're processing, now you're on the distribution, retailing side, and actually trying to launch or have launched some mushroom-based, like, foods, snacks, beverages yourself, and that's a really cool, like, vertical integration that you've done from farming side to that. What kinda made you decide to step out and be into all sides of that supply chain all the way from the farming to the retail?
The best way to educate somebody that you want to introduce to mushrooms or revisit the education of mushrooms is through food. There's no better way. When they try it, they're either gonna like it or they're gonna have comments about it. And then you know where to take them to step two, step three, step four. And so because a lot of the price constrictions that are happening in this fast-paced world that we're getting, prices are increasing across the board. Mushrooms have increased from certain farms, etc. Everybody's in a different manner increase something, right? And so the more when I first started working on this model back in 2014, it was how do I keep shifting it for both of it, for all of it to work. And so through a lot of data points and through a lot of conversations, experiences, downfalls, upfalls, the whole nine yards, it's coming there where I think this is the year that I'll be like, here we go. This is now it all makes sense kind of thing. So I had to take a break from growing since back a couple of years back, and so now we're finally getting to the stage where we're now going back into the growing component within the next 2 to 3 months, and then I'll really be able to then take the SKUs that we've been developing and tweaking, et cetera, that now I can take those products and really amplify within the Detroit metro region. I don't want to ship my product to California. There's a great California company that does other mushroom based stuff, and so one day maybe there will be my chili in a, I won't say which brand, but maybe a mom and pop shop, frozen aisle. But for the time being, I've got 4.3 million population around me, and I want to hold their hand and say, hey, let's have a mushroom conversation. And let me show you my story of mushrooms and how I got entangled into everything and where I am today and what could potentially be the results for you for the future. So that's sort of where it sort of all made sense to me. I had mushroom when I opened the first deli, in a warehouse setting. When I opened the first one, everything was to go. Everything was, well,
Mhm.
frozen. It was either frozen or in a SKU, right? And so whether it's dry mushrooms, whatever. And so I was like, okay, I like this concept, but I was like, now I want to make it into a downtown setting, and I want to see how it works how does it breathe. And so I opened one right in the middle of Little Italy where restaurants were left and right of me. So the chefs could walk in and say, I want that. Right. And so
Mhm.
people could walk in, they could have a hot soup, they could have a hot, we had a truffle sampling station, we had, different things where people come in and have an experience and walk out knowing at least one thing about mushrooms that made their day better. Right. Whether it's important on the medicinal side or whether it's just a new idea for what to do in the kitchen.
Yeah, and you said a moment ago, about how you're going back into the growing side. There was a couple of things that I'll kinda circle back to, in what you talked about, but on the growing side of it, you said you're getting back into that. What does that process look like? Because, I mean, in terms of actually growing the mushrooms, obviously, there's many different ones, and I'm sure they grow at different speeds, but is it very similar to maybe how a normal farming works when it comes to, like, corn or tomatoes where you have, like, a harvest season? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's a couple
Yep.
of months that you have of it growing and the plant being alive. I imagine it's probably a little bit different.
Oh yeah,
What is that? Because I've
we're a
seen.
daily, yeah. This project, for example, the construction side will be completed in about 45 days, and then 45 days after that period, somewhere in there, we're going to start production after certification process, and then I'm building fruiting rooms that are going to activate, and so my fruiting rooms will have fresh product. It will start within 7 to 10 days, and then we're going to have it every single day for the next 365 days, and then over and over again. Mushrooms are continuous daily picking. I mean, obviously, you can set it up when some days you're picking less than. Obviously, there is a rush at certain points in time, but if you time it right, you're going to get to the point where you're you know having that consistency. You always have something to pick. A lot different, and so in this particular one part that is launching first, this will be a concept where I will be able to be in full cycle within, because of the varieties that I'm going to be growing, I will be in cycle between 45 and 60 days. And that'll just depend on the bugs and cells that when we initially start where they're at as well.
Okay. Yeah, that's so interesting. Yeah. I mean, we all know a lot of fungi grows pretty quickly. You know, you see the most common fungi, I guess, would be like uh just the mushrooms you see out in your yard that grow occasionally. Like I have dogs, so
Mhm.
sometimes some sprout up randomly in the yard, and then even if you get rid of them, they keep coming back and they come back really fast. So I very curious. Thanks for sharing that of like how that actually looks like. But that's really nice that you can have them every day, 365 days a year from the time you actually begin to grow them, and then they're at their harvest point, and then you get them forever.
Yeah, well, you're continuously, recycling. You're putting in a block into the fruiting room. It's gonna grow out, 7 to, could be 60 days, depending on some, 90 days for some, right? But you're doing that, so some like oysters will do 3 cycles in a month, 2 to 3 cycles per month because we're only doing first flush, and then certain I'm gonna do 1.2 cycles per month, and so it'll all depend on the different varieties. Shiitake's taking obviously the longest, but there's a lot of cool things happening on that end of the industry as well. That there's progress being made to save smaller farming operations time.
Yeah, and you come with so much education about this. It's like And I know your plan that you mentioned at one point was having 45 plus choices of edible fungi available to people. How are you able to maybe educate consumers at that scale when there are so many options? And I'm sure all of them do different things, provide different things, help with different things. How do you kind of keep that compartmentalized of educating people on the different variations in what they do?
So we already have 55 varieties of dried mushrooms available 365, and so that
Okay.
so I have a wall of dried mushrooms, and so people will come in and they'll educate themselves on what that mushroom is. Or a lot of the people will walk through the door knowing of my vault, and then they'll say, "Oh, I'm going there because I know he's got turkey tail or agaricon or candy caps or tremella, whichever fungi they're diving into. 9 out of 10 times they're going to walk through the door and they're going to be able to source it, at least an ounce of it, right? So certain species are locally foraged in the area. There's some foragers that I've been working with close to 15 years, so I'm able to really get quality ingredients from various states and provinces in North America. I do have some stuff out of Europe, that more close to heart things that have a story for me, but I don't, I the closest that I can bring it to home, that's sort of the key point. So it's the education is both ways. It's people will come and they'll say, I'm battling this and I heard mushrooms could help me. I was like, well, I'm not a medical doctor to tell you this, but I'll tell you this. I got this incredible book here that I refer to everyone. It's called Fungal Pharmacy. And so we flip to the middle of the page a little bit closer to the end. There's a whole list of things that people are battling across the world. And then there are types of mushrooms on the side, and there's dot points to say which mushroom helps with this problem, right? I mean, it's a list, right? Multiple pages list, right? And so they'll look at that and then they'll be able to reference it. And then they go back to the point in the book, which reference that point, which showcases what some guy in Tibet is utilizing a Cordyceps militaris mushroom or Cordyceps sinensis mushroom or whatever type of any fungi, from Scandinavian countries to Siberia to Africa. So luckily, there's giants out there that have the gone through the testing and research phase that allow us who are on the front lines be able to say, well, this is my go-to person and he's been verified by this person and this guy wrote a book about it. So it's like, and so it's a community effort. It's a community effort, and that's all right. It only makes it better because it's a lot of these guys are now citizen scientists. So they're all doing their part on their own self. They're not even freaking half of the time they're working 2 jobs just to just to spread the word of fungi. But it's really cool stuff to come up with, and I'm thankful to each and every one of them that has helped me learn better and be able to utilize that information to spread.
Yeah, yeah, and being able to take that and, like you said, really holding the hand of the people in your community in Detroit and, like, helping them understand and educate them a little bit more. What 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 is what is your typical, like, community respond? Like, how does the community respond the most? Is it to kind of, like, the health angle, the culinary angle, or maybe some of the philosophy of the people you were just mentioning?
Oh, multiple categories, and within the category of culinary, there are multiple categories, and within the category of I like mushrooms, but I don't know enough about mushrooms, but I would like to learn about mushrooms, and I'm gonna invest my time to learn more about mushrooms. And then in that category is also people who come in and say, I stopped eating meat and I want a better replacement, or somebody told me the mushrooms will do this for me. So there's like it's a nice pyramid of different categories, and they're all valuable. They're all important because they all give support to another category. And so, but a lot of the times, like when I start asking people, like, so how'd you come here for the first time? Right? It's the uncle, it's the neighbor, it's the colleague, it's all this mycelium network of people. I don't advertise. I've never advertised. Everything that I've done to date is all been organic. I spent a lot of time on Instagram, especially during COVID area. I would do lives packaging mushrooms, cooking, and that's how the business grew. And so it's this is by no shape means defined. It's clearer, but it's not defined yet. We're still learning. We're still growing.
Yeah, yeah, and, you know, not even advertising and having it grow to the place that it's been now really makes sense, especially the more and I talk to you about fungi is, like, the level of, like, kinda passion and enthusiasm that you put off for them, and I mean, you've been around them for your whole life, you know, and still being at this point where you're so energized just talking about it, like, how do you keep that up after all this time?
Don't know. Maybe appreciation, gratitude. No, I'm very thankful. I'm alive today thanks to mushrooms. There's and we haven't even yet, began. We're just everyone thinks, "Oh, yeah, we've hit the snack." We're not even close to the peak of where this is going. And I strongly believe, I mention it regularly, is that I strongly do believe, and especially in this age of where we live today and this whole movement on the health movement within the government component, and people actually starting to be more vocal and, whistleblowers, yada yada, right? I truly, if this is going in that direction, that means that one day in the near future, the United States will produce equal amounts of lion's mane mushrooms that there is population, because all the research across all the universities is going to prove to the fact that the more you consume lion's mane, the better we are. Various First, it was brain fog, focus, memory, energy, gut health, sleep. What's next, right? There is a next. It's going to be exciting, and as AI comes about even further, and it's utilized more into research development on the health side, maybe AI will come out and be smarter than all of us in those, what is it, 48 months or 12 months or whatever they're projecting, the guys of the AI world. If that's the case, AI will come back and tell us, why aren't you adding mushrooms to every meal? Because the top 23 deficiencies on the planet that we're battling today, the top 23 diseases that we're battling today globally, that we spend trillions of dollars on. There's a book that I have. It's written by a chef and a nutritionist, and he ended up being a doctor, I believe, where it shows 20 top 23 diseases that we battle today, spend trillions of dollars on. The common denominator is vitamin D deficiency.
Yeah.
Priceless. And I
Yeah, yeah.
like
This is a
in
huge one that came out during COVID too.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
mind blowing. Why isn't it that when we walk into the hospital, there isn't a button that you press and there like lights go out and says, your vitamin D score is X? That is how important this is, right? And they're not talking about it. I'm right. This location here where I'm sitting today is in next to Wayne State University Medical Campus. The amount of medical students that I talk to that don't know that penicillin, mushrooms, fungi, right? That don't know how many of their medications that they are taught to prescribe came from the compounds of fungi. Like the mushroom I mentioned, the fungi I mentioned, right? It's such an exciting thing to see, to feel. I'm emotional about it, because I feel it. And to me, I saw this 10 years ago, and I see the next 10 years as being so much more vibrant, because now the people that have entered the industry, especially because of COVID, primarily because of COVID, are slowly falling off the bits and pieces. And those that deserve all the money going into mushrooms are going to get it. And the titans of the industry who are making the best tincture, like Jason and Feral Fungi, who are making the best drink, which is Dram, clean, high quality ingredients powered by mushrooms, right? So I'm very excited. And of course, I'm going to feed people all the delicious, ready to eat foods that one day are going to belong in the fungi based aisle that's coming within the grocery stores of the world, right? And that will be the last aisle, and it will be the healthiest aisle. My mission with what we're trying to do is to make it the most highest quality ingredients, nutrient dense food. And so, if you're going to use sugar, you're going to use organic maple syrup. If you're going to use certain things that you have to, for convenience purposes, you're going to utilize, you're not going to think about price. You're going to think about the reality. How much we spend on medication today, sorry, how much we spend on food today is a direct correlation to how much we're going to spend on medication tomorrow. So when somebody tells me, oh, I have a food budget, I was like, what are you talking about? Food budget? What an insane point of view. You should have a shoe budget. You don't need a new TV every year. spend that $450 extra and make sure your fridge is filled with the best of the best ingredients. And don't think if it's $9.99 over $6.99 that you sometimes the price isn't the right thing, right? I mean that in itself is not a pointer. It's more about the ingredients, right? So that's what I hope everybody that you talk to in this behind the skew is focusing on, no matter what. And if they're not, and just for future reference as a note, tell them that if they do not have mushrooms within their products, they should start adding it. Then they'll become cooler.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's super interesting to see kind of like how mushrooms are really taking a stand, and really becoming a huge focal point. And yeah, I'll keep that in mind when I talk to people. If you don't have mushrooms or some kind of mushroom in your product, we need to get it in there or slip it in there somehow.
Yeah.
But yeah, it sounds like what you're trying to accomplish and where you hope that this industry goes in the next 5 to 10 years is really going to explode and in a good way, and really be the focal point of health and wellness. And that's an amazing thing. I can't wait to see that. And I can't wait to see there actually truly be an entire aisle dedicated to mushroom products. And you having some part in that too.
I'm kind of working on it with a couple of some locals. I put the bug in the ear of a few people that run certain departments of certain local stores, and I from time to time will revisit that bug again. So it's like sometimes they think I'm joking, but then eventually I was like, oh, here, try this jerky. Here, try this mushroom cola, or here, and they're like, you're constantly bringing me mushroom based products. I was like, yeah, because I'm trying to tell you that there's already a place for this. And so all those future companies that you're going to talk to also feel free to share my email address. If they need a good connection of a good source of whatever variety of mushroom they need, I will help them. I will help send them to the right spot.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, speaking of that, where can people reach you, follow you, see what you're doing, connect with you, get products from you, like website, social medias, things like that?
Themushroomhub.com. Every tag that we have is the Mushroom Hub. The corporate entity is the Mush Hub, which is also its own tag. That's more of posting on company incentives, while the Mushroom Hub is like our one of the brands that I'm working on with the direct consumer deli, excuse me. And then on Instagram I'm pretty vocal, and also on LinkedIn, my first name, last name, of course, search me, follow, add me, send me a message if there's anything. I love talking mushrooms, as I've always proven on these things, on these podcasts, because and I appreciate it because you're so busy either building or taking out a fire or expanding relationships and networking, all that, the whole shebang of daily life, which you're very familiar with. It's nice to sit down and actually relate to why I do what I do, even though I remind myself it's nice to have this conversation where people are interested into, well, what's next for mushrooms, and just an overall conversation so I appreciate it. Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, that is true. You get lost in it all, and you get lost in the day to day. But I had you on because this is fascinating, right? And then even talking to you even more about this now is just been super fascinating. And mushrooms. It's not just about the mushrooms, right? It's about the belief in the food as a medicine and the fungi as the future and where things are moving. So to everyone listening, sometimes the most powerful ingredients aren't new; they're just overlooked and misunderstood. But Dennis, thanks for coming on, and I'll see you next time on Behind the Skew.
I appreciate it, and I welcome it in about a year.